Hey everyone, it's Grady from SUBOVERLAND, and in this video I'll be going over the top 10 most asked questions about overlanding. Let's get right into it. So this video this week, I thought I'd just do a little, just talking about a topic that, I don't know, I was just looking at chat or Gemini. I use Gemini, I've got a Pixel, and it whipped up the top 10 things that people ask about overlanding. So I thought I was curious about what those were, and so let's get right into it here. The number one, let's start with number 10. How about that? I'm not positive if these are in any order, but number 10 that people are asking online. How can I be a responsible overlander? Okay. I'm assuming this is going after, like, how do you not tear up the environment? How do I, litter and stuff? The response on here was responsible overlanding means practicing leave no trace principles. Okay, that's what I was thinking. Which involves minimizing environmental impact. This includes packing out trash, using established campsites, minimizing campfire impact, staying on designated trails, and being respectful of wildlife and local communities. For sure. I guess quick story. When I was growing up, I'm here in Idaho, and I was a river guide for the Middle Fork of the Salmon River. If you guys have heard of that, it's one of the most pristine rivers in the world, really. And it's kind of hard to get on. You have to permit it yourself, which could take years, or you hop on with a get up that takes you on there. So I was a guide for actually the Boy Scouts, and it was an amazing experience. I would do it in the summers, and they are very, very picky on leave no trace. And that was a beautiful thing for me to see. When you're going through it as a kid, you want to, there's some certain rules and stuff that are kind of annoying, but now, I've gone down it since, as an adult, and man, it is the same exact thing that I experienced as a kid. And so you really see how it works. So yeah, definitely, leave no trace out there. Number 9. Can I overland without off-road driving experience? Okay. I definitely, believe that it's for sure possible, of course. But let's see what Gemini said here. While off-roading skills are beneficial, you can start overlanding as a beginner. Take shorter trips to gain experience, practice in controlled environments, and consider taking an off-road driving course. Traveling with experienced overlanders is also a good idea. Okay. I've seen definite, there's like groups, people just getting into this type of stuff, just going on off the beaten path a little bit. They'll get with groups of people, which is cool, and that really helps out. Hopefully there's at least one person that's somewhat experienced in your group, and they'll know how to get you out. And I guess if there's no one that's that experienced, you're all just learning together, and at least you're not just out there alone. So yeah, definitely groups is a good idea. I should do more of that. I don't. But I guess just growing up, just being in Idaho, and my dad loves to, go fishing and just taking drives and stuff. So we would just go off-roading, call it off-roading, but just on, country roads and getting to like cool places that he would, read about growing up. And so I was used to driving on those roads, and there's certain techniques that you have to take in consideration, with like undercarriage. You're not just like driving as fast as you can over these roads, and hitting a differential and an oil pan, and there's all those little things that you pick up along the way. But yeah, courses, watching YouTube videos can be helpful for sure. But really just getting out there is, your number one. It can be pretty intimidating. Back in the day when I first started SUBOVERLAND, I would take the clients across the canyon here in Twin Falls and take them on a little, driving course, I guess you could call it. It wasn't like an actual course, but I would take them on a couple little trails. And the people were terrified. And it was really cool to see them, gain a little confidence there with me. So maybe I should start that up again. I don't know if I have time to do that, but... Okay, number 8. Do I need special permits or licenses for overlanding? Let's see what it says about this one. Permits and regulations vary by location. Some regions or parks may have specific rules or restrictions, especially in protected areas. Always research the laws and regulations of the countries and regions you visit. Obtain necessary permits. So I guess I would say this one's more of like international, maybe. But there are going to be permits here. I'm in, obviously America here. And I'm sure there's going to be some permits. I would just say with this one, just be careful of private and public lands. I think that's going to be your main. You don't want to be driving on private land. That's the worst. If any of you guys own land, I don't own tons of land. I just live here in town. But if you're out there and, that's probably not a good feeling when someone's just like tearing up your property or driving, even if they're being considerate, but they're just driving without permission on your property and stuff. Anyway, so there's, Onyx Off-Road and all these different off-road or maps you can use for hunting and different things that would tell you public and private. So I would focus on that more than like the permitting. Okay, number 7. Is overlanding safe? Yeah, anything can be safe, right? But I think, let's see what they're getting at here. Safety is crucial, especially in remote areas. Key safety practices include vehicle preparation, checking weather conditions, packing sufficient supplies, yada, 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 carrying a comprehensive first aid kit, traveling in groups. Again, this group concept came up again. Overlanding definitely can be safe. I think we've probably heard some like horror stories, obviously, just like anything in life, where maybe someone like died overlanding. I'm sure it's out there. People can die in a lot of different ways, but really being safe, like preparing here, vehicle preparation, that's definitely key. I've seen a lot where if you have like breakdowns or your tires blow up and you don't have a spare, or you have a spare and it's not filled up, with air because it's old and you don't know basic mechanic skills, that can really be a detriment if you break down in the middle of nowhere. So I would say with preparing for that, I would get up some basic mechanical skills and really check your vehicle pre-trip, pre-trip inspection, and carry all of these things that, it's mentioned here, first aid kit, tools, get a easy, a little tool bag that you take on every trip. Be sure your jack's there, just little stuff like that can go a long way. Number 6, how do I plan an overlanding trip? Planning involves defining adventure goals, researching potential routes and destinations, assembling gear and equipment, and preparing the vehicle. Consider terrain, weather, communication, and navigation tools. Okay. How do I plan an overlanding trip? That's a good question. I think there's a ton of really good videos on this topic that I've seen over the years that people try to tackle it that will obviously have a lot more information than like this one. So I would start there. YouTube's a great resource to answer some of these questions. Again, how do I plan an overlanding trip? I would just say, just go do it. Not just willy-nilly without prepping or anything, but get all of your preparations. Again, your vehicle, first aid, food, water, all those basic things, so you feel prepared on that. And then from there, you can go and, if it's spur of the moment, you like see this place wherever, and you're like, oh, I want to go there. Yeah, then you have the option of just taking off and going there because your vehicle is prepped, your food's prepped. That's why sub-overlands are great, because, or any other build that you can keep stuff in it with their underground storage and things like that. I can just keep everything that I need in the vehicle, so it takes down on my prep time. So, and then planning your routes. Again, there's all these apps that you can use that can do your route. Maps, obviously, just like old school maps. A cool thing that I've done, I guess a lot of people do, I'm sure. You'll see like a YouTube video, and they don't share maybe necessarily like everything about the route, but like the destination is shared. And so then you can say, oh man, that looks like a cool place. And then you start researching it and get your route down. So yeah, I would say definitely planning again is key. Preparation. What kind of gear do I need for overlanding? Essential gear includes shelter, sleeping bags, water purification, cooking, extra fuel, tools, a first aid kit, recovery gear, including max tracks, they're mentioning, a shovel. Okay. Yeah, so this is just the gear question, the age-old gear question. If any of you have ever gotten into anything like outdoor or anything like at all, there's always going to be like, what gear? So like I shoot YouTube videos. You can get down a giant rabbit hole of what gear do I need? Do I really need this gear? How do I shoot it? What kind of mics do I need? It's just like never ending. Overlanding is exactly the same thing. So I err on the side of being minimalist for sure. Hopefully you guys can just kind of see that with our builds. We kind of I push back quite a bit on some of this gear that you see out there that I think is just somewhat useless. And that's just my opinion. I don't have probably as much recovery gear as some people. My recovery gear would really, you got your rope, I have like a kinetic recovery rope, and then a shovel can go a long way. So that's kind of my basic recovery gear. If you have a winch, great, especially if you're doing self-recovery, and then you have to get into another rabbit hole of that. So I may not be the best person to have like the recovery gear question. I am probably a little bit too minimalist on that aspect of it. And then as far as camping and stuff too, I mean, it's funny. Just last night I was camping, and I rolled out our old family tent that my dad had. And I'm rolling it out, and it's an old tent, and it was not very nice to begin with anyway. But it has seen better days, duct tape all over the place. And my dad is like anti-stakes. So he doesn't like stake down a tent. He just puts his weight in there, with your gear, and, skips the staking, which is fine. It's worked for him for 60 whatever years. So good for him. I like to stake down my tents. Maybe you guys do, maybe you don't. And so I was looking for the stakes in this tent, and I was laughing to myself like, oh, of course it's not going to have it because it's, my dad's. But sure enough, there was actually some stakes. And so I guess the reason I say that, you can kind of see how I grew up. And my dad was just very minimalist in his preparations. And sometimes that was fantastic. And it really panned out, and it made the trip a lot better. But sometimes it can be a little detriment, if you're not packing enough clothes, if you're not packing enough things. And I have gone the extreme on that route too and been burned. And so I'm definitely better at packing now, I'd say. But as far as recovery gear, you don't have to have max tracks to go, overlanding. You don't have to have a roto packs to go overlanding. There's some of these things you don't have to have. You don't have to have a winch to get out there. So I would say shelter. So somewhere you're going to sleep. Could be inside the car. Food. And some sort of recovery gear. And, get on out there. Water, obviously, too. But so that's what I would say with what kind of gear do I need. Where can I go overlanding? Number 4, overlanding routes and destinations exist in national forests. Okay, so again, this is just another topic that we went over. You can have those apps, Onyx, Gaia, GPS, stuff like that. And you just find your destination. Honestly, with my family right now, we need to go camping more. But when we go, a lot of times I'll do the national park route, and it's fine. It gets super busy, and some of the parks are just way overcrowded, and it's such a bummer. But I guess that's not a bummer. That's a good thing that people are going. But with planning for that trip's a lot different than planning, way off-grid BLM type, stuff. I actually get my campsite ahead of time, and you can, pay for it online versus, just, going out in the middle of nowhere and finding your spot. So definitely you can go anywhere, go overlanding. Number 3, is overlanding expensive? Oh boy. Great question. It definitely can be expensive. So overlanding costs vary based on trip duration, destination, and preference. Costs include maintenance, fuel, food. Yeah, it is possible to overland on a budget by cooking meals, camping for free, and choosing budget-friendly destinations. Okay, so the end of this little explanation here, overlanding a budget by cooking meals, camping for free, and choosing budget. That is me. So I definitely have less expensive cars. People out there are mods. People can really get crazy. You can get, the brand new $80,000 vehicle and then drop, $30,000 on your build. So that's fine. There's a place for everyone, and I don't want to sound all, like I hate people like that or anything like that. Of course I do not. We love everyone. Everyone's great. And it's just fun seeing everyone out there. But I personally don't want to do that. And so here we are. Our builds, I guess, SUBOVERLAND builds are, for a fully built out vehicle starts around, $20,000. And it goes, as cheap as, 10, 11 grand for our really base, the very basic vehicle just to get you out there. So for around 10, 11 grand, you can get a, fully, ready to go, off-roading Suburban. And then for around 20 grand, it's all built out with, the interior stuff. And so I would say we are definitely on the budget end of things in the overlanding world. And I am proud to say that. So yes, it can be expensive, but it definitely does not have to be. Number 2, what kind of vehicle do I need for overlanding? Haha. Okay, I know you guys, I'm very biased in this. Obviously, I have an overlanding company called SUBOVERLAND, if this is your guys' first time watching us. So I love Suburbans and GM vehicles. And so what kind of vehicle do you need? Well, you need a vehicle that's 4-wheel drive, that's reliable, and that you can fix on the road. So if you find a vehicle that checks those boxes, go for it. Okay. Personally, the Suburban checks all of those boxes, and it's big, which is really nice to have the space. And yeah, you guys have heard me talk, the reliability and how you can fix these things for cheap and how the upfront cost isn't as much as a lot of things out there. So, and it's capable. So yeah, 4-wheel drive, obviously key. A vehicle that can handle various terrains and carry necessary gear is important. So it's a pretty basic question, but it sounds like a lot of people are asking it. So yeah, 4-wheel drive vehicle with, some better clearance, and you're going to need, good 10-ply tires. And so, yes, I think that's pretty much it for that question. Number 1, what is overlanding? This has been asked a lot. You can make a whole video on this. People have. I'm sure there's a bunch of videos titled, What is Overlanding? Overlanding, let's see what Gemini said here. Overlanding is self-reliant travel, often over long distances and to remote locations. This typically involves off-road vehicles equipped with camping and wilderness survival. The journey and experience are prioritized over reaching a specific destination. Interesting. That's cool they said that, joy in the journey, right? What is overlanding? That's tough to answer because it's just a term that I don't know how it necessarily got its origins recently. I mean, I know back in the day, overlanding, when you're traveling overland, right? So like pioneers here in America and things like that. But nowadays, it's really gotten big enough that there's companies that just sell overland gear, right? SUBOVERLAND is my company name. When I was choosing that name, I was looking up, stats on like what's being searched and in this industry. And overland obviously is, a very popular thing right now. So I guess for me, I would just say definitely it's travel that involves a four-wheel drive vehicle, a capable vehicle, across land, obviously. So you're going somewhere, and it involves some stressful situations sometimes, I guess, because you're getting yourself out there. So you're putting yourself out there in something uncomfortable sometimes. So it's not going to be like your obvious like national park. Like I wouldn't call going to a national park overlanding, right? You would need to, have like some sort of off-road trail that's getting you off the beaten path into like some place where if you break down, you can't just, walk over to, the AutoZone and get a part. Like you would have to fix it yourself or call for help, and they'd have to drive in. So I guess my definition of overlanding would be more of you're definitely, off-roading. There's some aspect of off-roading. You're off the beaten path. You're out there. You have to learn skills yourself, either on the go or before, to be able to get yourself out of those situations. And you're enjoying Mother Nature in like the most organic way, I guess, where sometimes in like the parks or where there's lots of other people, you're not going to get that. So I guess, a roundabout way, it's just really getting out there in nature, but getting out there in nature with a vehicle and someplace where you can, sleep in the vehicle, or, obviously in, rooftop tents or tents and things. And so, yeah, that was a kind of interesting and long answer to that. Hopefully that kind of made sense to what my thinking of overlanding is and what our company thinks it is too. A lot of talking on this video. Whenever I do a video like this, I've talked to customers over the years, and I'm like, man, my videos are so long and boring, and I'm so sorry. And they always are like, no, like I love, like make them longer. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, if I would be watching this video, I might go to sleep. So sorry if some of you, I was a little long-winded here, or it's getting a little boring. But that is what I've got. The top 10 most asked questions about overlanding. Hopefully you guys learned something. I know I learned some things here while I was, reading through. It's really interesting to see what people think of what overlanding is. And I'm just excited to be part of the industry and to help people get out there. It's so fun seeing someone that's never even like owned a four-wheel drive vehicle come and they buy a Suburban from us. And so I have to show them how to, run the four-wheel drive and, the do's and don'ts. And that's just really, a really nice thing about what I do for a living is helping people get out there in a vehicle. And I think it's very, very cool that people like my clients sometimes that have never done this at all, and they're willing to, go out there and put themselves on a limb and go do something new. And so I would say overlanding definitely, helps you grow in a lot of different ways, and it can be very satisfying to people that actually go out there and do it. So keep on doing that, and I appreciate all the support over the years. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, if you're new, first time watching us, please subscribe. I do these videos every week, and I have been doing this for years now, and it's been fun. And yeah, tell all your friends. And if you are interested in a overlanding vehicle that's all ready to go, visit our website at suboverland.com and you can have some more information there. Till next time.